we get started, of all of the sessions that I present, whether it's through our own webinar series or whether it's at a conference, trade show, or industry event, or if it's one of our consulting services, because we actually go in and build people's customer service philosophies and programs for them. This is my passion. More than anything, customer service is my passion. I just feel as a consumer myself that if I'm served well, I recognize that. If I'm not served well, I make sure I let people know that I don't feel like I've been served well in a very tactful way. And I always like to tell stories and share my own experiences during these types of presentations. So for me, this is definitely my passion. It's a #1 priority for me for Unique Venues as the owner of the company and the CEO. Service is definitely a #1 priority for us, as well as delivering on our service promises. So hopefully you'll feel that and sense that today, because I really believe that service is an innate, internally driven act. It's hard to have someone who doesn't want to serve come off as being a genuine service representatives. Now, this presentation is a little bit different than what you may have experienced in a service presentation in the past. What makes it different is that I'm not going to teach you today how-tos when it comes to service. None of that greet customers with a smile, answer the phone in 3 rings. That's not what this is. This is about leading service, because I definitely believe that the leadership of any organization, of any unit within an organization, has to feel a passion for customer service in order for it to be a success. And so this is more about designing and leading a program. So let's go ahead and get started here. I want to start with some statistics. These are some what I consider to be compelling statistics. Sometimes people just need to understand the landscape of service to be that propelling reason to do it. So these are some statistics from Salesforce. 89% is the percentage of people, customers, who say their #1 frustration is not being able to have their problem solved based on their first interaction. I call the first interaction first contact satisfaction. So if you think about yourself as a consumer, whenever it is that you are dealing with someone, whether it's in retail or whether it's somebody on the line or a phone call or a chat online through a chatbot, or whatever your customer service experience is, 89% of us say we're frustrated because we don't get our questions or our needs or the solutions we need by the first person we talk to. So we start to get passed on from one person to another. And we find ourselves having to explain and re-explain and hash through our needs. And if you're anything like me, sometimes when you get to the 4th person, it's difficult. It's not that 4th person's fault that they're hearing me frustrated, because by that point I'm angry, I'm frustrated, my time is busy, and I'm having to tell somebody the same thing for the 4th time. How it's the system's problem, it's their organization's problem that I wasn't able to get that solution the first time. So one of the things a good customer service organization strives to do or be is a good first contact satisfaction representative. I used to run a conference and events venue and at a university. And what was really important to me is that we were all cross-trained enough in all of the functionalities to a degree that people would know what, at least when somebody came up to them, enough to answer their questions, or at least lead them to the person who could help them, so that if it wasn't the first contact that satisfied their needs, it was no more than the second who could. 45% is the level of satisfaction for the services offered via company websites. So I put, clearly we have a lot to do as businesses. Our websites aren't answering the questions that people need to have answered in order for them to want to do business, because the website is lacking important information. And so it's really important to have a really good multi-channel approach to providing people through your website apps and social tools and ways to engage that people could get the answers they don't have. Chatbots are a good way to do that. If you don't have a chatbot on your website, maybe there's somebody that can answer the question. I think one of the things that really rises to the top about websites is that businesses rely so much on their website that they don't put any links into that human interaction. So if people don't get the questions answered from their website they need, there's like, how do I contact you? There are so many websites that I have to fill out a form and tell you my issue, but you don't provide me with, here are people who can help you with that issue. If you want to pick up the phone call, if you want to email them directly. So there's all of these stopgaps in trying to get your solutions. 28%, more than 1/4 of those surveyed told Accenture that they feel very loyal towards the company they do business with, which means there's a lot out there who are ready to make a move. I mean, that was so telling to me. When I thought about that, I thought only 28% of consumers feel loyal to the brands they do business with. And I think I'm a little bit different, but I'm going to share a story with you right now. I am in the transition of moving banks. And the reason I'm in the transition of moving banks is because throughout this whole COVID process, I won't name banks, we are a smaller company. We're certainly not just this little minuscule speck of dust. But I always like to say we're a small company that does big things. But we bank with a big bank, one of the big top 5 banks. For me to get an answer to my small business problems, the solutions I need, I feel like I have to go through so many automated processes. And then once I do, you usually get, well, here's the person you need to talk to, or we can't help you with that. And it hit me. I thought, well, I'm a small business doing big things. I think I need a small bank that does big things, because they're going to be closely aligned with my values, my needs, and understand my need for a response when I have a question. So I'm making that move because I feel like I need to align my needs and loyalty with businesses that can understand who I am. We had the same situation when it came to selecting a sales CRM for our company. I went through probably one of the most exhaustive processes anybody has ever gone through to pick a sales CRM. Corey wasn't with us at the time, but Allie, do you remember the process? I mean, I started out with like 10 CRMs, and then I narrowed it down, and then I can't tell you how many meetings I had with people. I wanted to throw out my problems and have them actually show me how their CRM could solve that problem. But some of the really big companies that will remain undiscussed, unnamed, all they kept throwing to me was, watch this video, watch this video, watch this video. So there was no dialogue. There was just a one-way communication. Here's my question. Your answer's in this video. You watch this video. And I thought, so I'm going to have 11 people use this sales CRM. In this company, some of these companies I'm looking at are used to having thousands of people use their sales CRM. And they've got skyscrapers in different cities with their name on them. I don't think they care about my 11-person need. So we went with a small sales CRM. And while it didn't have everything we need, I was able to call them and explain to them what we needed. And because they saw it as a universal fit, they developed those things along the way. So for me, this is such a good way to kind of think about loyalty. It is very possible, in my mind, for small venues or large venues to have small and large clients. It's all in how willing you are to work directly with them. 74% is the percentage of consumers who say they're prepared to share bad experiences with their friends. Now, and it's going up. It's going up because more and more it's so easy through social channels and platforms for people to share their feelings. And the really big issue, what you need to remember is, again, think about your own basic consumerism. I go somewhere, and I just did it. I just went very, very deeply into my negative experiences with, I just didn't name the companies. I went very, very deep into my dissatisfaction. I told you specifically what they didn't do. They sent me videos. They didn't engage with me. They didn't dialogue with me. I did not tell you the things in specifics, the things that the CRM system we selected did for us in detail. So we're very detail oriented about the negative situations, and people remember those things. And we, unfortunately, culturally, don't expand on the positives. And then the 84%, this is the number of customers who might not have switched buying from a company if its service improved. So people don't expect perfection from us as businesses. They don't expect perfection from unique venues. They don't expect perfection from you as a venue or you as a planner in your meetings and events. As long as you respond and act efficiently and thoroughly to what the need is, and then you communicate to them the solutions or the changes that you've made. Next, Rosetta Stone, the company, this is a stat from them. Highly engaged customers are 6 times more likely to say they would try a new product or service from a brand as soon as it comes out. So this is all about engaging with your customers. Sometimes, I love this criticism of unique venues. You guys reach out to us too much. I am so happy to hear that. I am so happy to hear that people want us to say, can we just make it so that you just check in with us 2 or 3 times a year instead of 4 or 5 times a year? I love that. I would much rather that rather than somebody saying, you know, I don't hear from unique venues until it's time for my renewal. That's the worst criticism you could ever pay a company, I think. We never hear from you until it's time to pay you, because that's not what it's supposed to be like. I think we're called as businesses to engage with our clients. And this is the unintended consequence, that these customers are 6 times more likely to say they'd try a new product or service from a brand that does that. Right now, says 55% of customers become a customer of a company because of their reputation for great customer service. Rarely do you ever hear somebody say, you know, their product's really great, but their service is terrible, but I'm going to keep buying from them, despite their service being bad. Zendesk, 75% of people would return to a company with excellent service, and 56% would recommend it to family and friends. One of your best marketing and sales tools right there is that people have the confidence and affinity for who you are because they feel taken care of, so that they're willing to tell people and share that information. Harvard Business Review says customers who had the best past experiences spend 140% more compared to those who had the poorest past experience. So I would never want anybody to spend money with us just because we do a good job, right? But we want them to have that confidence that if I'm going to spend money, this company does a great job, or this venue does a great job, or this caterer does a great job. I know it's worth spending this money there because I'm getting an ROI, whether it's a hard ROI or a soft ROI. And hard ROI might be that, you know, we had a 95% satisfaction rate from our attendees with the venue. And the soft ROI was just that you were able to sit back and people were coming up to your staff and saying, what a great place you have here. What a great team you have in place. You know, so those are all good. Oracle, 89% of consumers begin doing business with a competitor following a poor customer experience. We've already talked to that. And 67% of customer churn is preventable if the customer issue was resolved at the first engagement. Again, We've talked about that. When I worked directly in a venue, I had a philosophy that while the venue I worked at, the university, required us to have an organization chart, the traditional hierarchy org chart, I tried to look at things more like a circle. And that circle still comes into effect at unique venues. Right now, I might be the most important person in unique venues right now for the 145 people who are on this webinar. But let's say it's Allison presenting on design, and I'm not even on here. Just because I'm the leader of unique venues, I'm at that point probably the least important person in unique venues, and I'm at the bottom of the circle, and Allison's at the top, and Corey's flanking her on one side, and Joel's flanking her on the other side to support her and work with you. So I think having a nimble view of an organization is important, and because I did that, my team, whether it's at unique venues or when I was at the University of Pittsburgh's Conference Center in Johnstown, that person at the front desk who's resolving a customer client is empowered to make the decision and represent our venue. They don't have to say, let me go and get somebody for you to talk to. They were able to say, I'm really sorry about the concerns. We can go ahead and move you to another room, and we can go ahead and issue you a credit. So it was all about creating that satisfaction from the start, okay? So today we're going to talk about this whole developmental process, which is all about, developing your philosophy, working and hiring the right people, training your people, having processes and policies in place that support your philosophy, gaining feedback and developing response mechanisms to help assure your philosophy is solid, and initiatives to engage and excite and create loyalty, and then making sure you're constantly improving your product. Allison, any questions before I move on?
Yes. We have one from Lindsay, and she says, how do I encourage my concierge team to understand the importance of customer service? There's a lot of inconsistency with how they treat our clients and guests.
That's interesting, because to me, they are your welcome center. They are, besides your front desk people, your concierge service. The whole point behind a concierge is to serve. It is a service-oriented position. And so I think it's in training, but I'm going to say, when we're talking about the hiring process, let's pay attention to some of the things I'm going to point out there, because maybe the people in that concierge position are not necessarily in the right position, because the people that should be in that position are the people who feel passion each and every day in helping people find the right place to go to dinner, the right place to get a solution for a business need they have, the right person to help make airport transportation. It's a solution center. Most people, 95% of people who come to a concierge are looking for a solution. How can we spend our afternoon? Where can we take an important client to dinner tonight? What's the best way to get to the airport? I got to get there quick and snappy. All of those things. That's the role of the concierge. Okay? So we're going to talk about hiring. Okay? So first, let's talk about the philosophy. This is putting your beliefs and intentions into words that provide meaning and understanding. This is different than a mission statement. I'm going to talk about mission statements first, but I don't think I've ever had anyone who can respond to this. If I were standing in front of all of you live, and hopefully one day I will have that opportunity to do so, if I asked you to recite your mission statement, not look it up and recite it, but stand up and recite your mission statement, I don't think I've ever had anybody, they can say it's something like, I think it's like, or I think we just changed it. What is it? That's not good. You should always know the reason why you exist. A mission statement tells that story. What your goals are, what the goals are for the operation, what kind of product or service you're going to provide. This is so important to who you are as an organization. So I think it's real clear. And some people have really long mission statements. Mission statements are not long. They're simple. Here's a sample mission statement from Nordstrom. Nordstrom department stores, who are located in both Canada and the United States, say to give customers the most compelling shopping experience possible, period. There's a lot of ways they can do that that fits in there, but they've got that umbrella statement that they want to give customers the most compelling shopping experience possible. Starbucks says to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, in one neighborhood at a time. And Whole Foods, to nourish people on the planet. We're a purpose-driven company that aims to set the standards of excellence for food retailers. Quality is a state of mind at Whole Foods Market. Ours, Unique Venues, in case you ever wondered, is to be the indispensable marketing and sales resource for the underdogs. An underdog to us are people who don't belong to big chain hotels with multi-million-dollar marketing and sales budgets and teams of hundreds of people. You know, we're here to support those venues who don't have that. So what is your mission? Of course, you don't have to tell me right now what your mission is. If we were together, I'd put you on the spot. But do you know your mission, and what is it? Now, we're not talking about a mission today, but your philosophy is an offshoot of your mission. So we're also going to talk about vision, because first there's a mission, then there's a vision. And a vision is, what's your dream to be as you look to the future? This is the foundation for everything you do. Every plan you make should fit into your vision, or helping you to be what you dream to be. It captures your passion for your product and those you serve. We're real excited because behind the scenes at Unique Venues, we have been dreaming a lot about what we're going to be and do for our clients in 2021. COVID has changed a lot of things. Everybody talks about a new normal. I'm not sure I want to talk about a new normal, but we are definitely pivoting and dreaming in a new and different way that we feel is very exciting for our clients. And it's building up a passion for our product. And so we're going to be able to share those things with our customers in maybe another month and a half. So dreaming is good. I have some vision statements here. This program will be in. I don't want to go through them too deeply. But do you have a vision? So let's assume you know what your mission is for your, you need to know what your mission is and how you fit into the overall mission. Because a lot of our clients, you know, conferences and events isn't your core product. You might work at a movie theater, and your movie theater's core product is to show first-run films to patrons of the film arts. But your mission is to generate additional revenue through private events that helps to support the overall financial mission of the theaters. So knowing the overall mission and what your mission is and how you fit into it is important. And then having a vision and your dreams of how you achieve that are important. Now we're getting to something that's the last step in helping you to put together your philosophy, which we're going to talk about. And that's a customer service promise. And a customer service promise isn't just words on paper. This is truly a commitment that you have to fulfill to meet your customers' expectations. I mean, your customer service promise is extraordinarily critical. It's what you tell your customers they can expect from you 100% of the time, or at least what you're going to strive to provide for them 100% of the time. This is that statement that helps you determine, like, is this a genuine company, or is this company just trying to get my business and they don't really they don't walk their talk. This is really important. What's even more important is how you communicate your promise. Sometimes just communicating your promise by having a statement and just living it every day is the best. That's the best way to communicate your promise, is through your actions. But it's always important to ask yourself, imagine for a moment, this is what we promise our customers we're going to do for them. What happens if you break your promise? One of the things I lived by raising my children, two of which are on here, was that I always remembered in my head that for every action, there's a consequence. Consequences aren't negative. Consequences could be negative, positive, benign. But what are the consequences for not living up to your customer service promise? And how do you hold people accountable within your team that dilute your customer service promise? How do you reward people in your organization who elevate and meet and exceed your customer service promise? So that's very important. Any questions, Allison? Okay. So now we're going to put it all together, and this is a sample philosophy statement. So this is the first step, is having a philosophical statement that becomes, you know, if we were building a house, this is the foundation. If you don't have a good foundation in your house, it doesn't matter how pretty it is, there's going to be cracks in the wall, it's going to fall over down the cliff or whatever, it's not going to be able to stand. So this sample philosophy statement is so important. So what I love is that I found this by I was doing a customer service philosophy statement, and one of the top search results was actually from one of our clients. Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina has a beautiful year-round conference and events venue on their campus called the Yount Center, and they do lots of weddings there and lots of meetings and conferences. And they fall under this department, and their sample philosophy statement is here. And so just some things to say, you know, our philosophy in our department is that we're committed to the customers, staff, our team, and general public that we serve. To honor this commitment, we pledge to maintain the following values and standards. And then they go down and have a whole bullet dot list of the things they value and the standards they'll live by. You know, that they will utilize all assets available to ensure customers are satisfied with their experience, that they'll solicit feedback from customers to improve programs and services. They lay these things out. Now, I'm going to assume, because I happen to know the people that work there and they're outstanding people and it's a successful place, that they actually do this. Again, you can say these things, but if you don't do these things, it's actually counterproductive to your success. Again, this goes back to your service promises. Questions, Allie? Anything?
No questions.
Okay, we're going to move on here. So now you have this philosophy, okay? Now we have to talk about the people who bring the philosophy to life in a very meaningful and measurable way. These are your first contact satisfaction people throughout your organization. So the people, you know, so now with this, we've got this great foundation. We've got to put some walls up, and these people are your walls. This is the strength, right? This is your framework of what's above the foundation. And so we're going to talk about building a service-focused team. We're going to talk about functions, hiring, training, managing, coaching, recognizing, and something I call trapeze partners. So when it comes to personnel, that's the first thing that's so important right now. It was interesting. We worked with a large university in Canada as their consultants to help them build their customer service philosophy. And I feel like we're 90% there, but then COVID hit, people's jobs are, you know, there's furloughs, there's this or that, won't finish it. But when we were all meeting together and we were going through the facilitation process, we were finding that a lot of people didn't have job description, any words in their job description that talked about service expectations, even if they were in the service industry, whether they were, you know, working at the counter of the bookstore or they were serving food in a food and beverage outlet or whatever. There weren't necessarily any specific service expectations provided in their job description. So right there, you're starting their potential hiring process by not setting the expectation out that they're a good service provider. So I know somebody asked about concierge earlier. I'd be curious, does go back and look at their job descriptions, and how specific and deeply do you go into the job description for that position to require certain standards of service? So, and some examples might be that you have to maintain a minimum survey result or satisfaction score of 4 or above of 90% in your area. Or you have to, maybe they're a management person, they have to lead the team in achieving and maintaining an overall quality assurance score of 95% or above. So are there specifics in your job description? So one of the things I challenge you to do is to review your job descriptions for the areas you impact and look and see what the service is. And the funny thing is, everybody's a service representative. If you manage this the right way, every single person in your organization, and in a traditional hierarchical org chart from the top to the bottom, everyone should have some kind of customer service expectations that are specific built into the expectations. Because to say something like, we require great service from what does that mean? It's too intangible. It's, how do you hold someone accountable for saying, displays quality service, with clients they serve? Well, somebody who's just really average might think they're doing a great job, because from who they are as a person and what they expect from service, they might be really happy with a very ordinary or lackluster service experience. It's really important to put specifics in. Allie, any questions?
Not right now.
Okay. Now let's talk about the hiring process. So now you have the job description, you know who it is, the functions and what these people are going to do when it comes to providing service at some level for your venue, for your association, your organization, your event and meetings support service, whatever it may be. So you want to pay attention to your advertising language. To set the expectation for service out there is important. You want that person, there's always going to be the person, especially in really tough job markets, who are going to look and they're going to say, yeah, I can do that, I can do that. But in more competitive job markets, when people really see that there's a strong expectation, requirement, and evaluation for service, people are going to say, like, that's not me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to solve people's problems. I don't want to be that person. So you want to, again, lay out strong service expectations and requirements in your advertising language. Some places don't allow, and some places do allow pre-interview testing. So we do Enneagram at unique venues. We do Clifton Strengths Finders at unique venues. And there are certain, anybody can be a service provider, but there's certain types of people that really kind of rise to the top, and from an Enneagram, the achiever, the helper, the peacemaker, people in Clifton Strengths Finders who are influencing and relationship building are strong types of personalities to have. But do some, if you're permitted, do some pre-interview testing. It's worth $19, whatever it might be, to take these and just get a sense. Because what's really interesting, so I don't know if you know, I try not to be salesy on any of these, but sometimes it's hard to not talk about products we offer. So one of the products we offer is we'll come in and we'll help to develop the extraordinary team for you. And one part of the process in developing the extraordinary team is having everybody take a battery of these tests. And what's really cool is to see where people fall in these different personalities, because certain personalities are meant for are best suited for certain types of jobs. And I remember before we started to do it, we did it ourselves as a team. We facilitated it, and Michael Brown, who's part of the Unique Venues team, as one of our consultants, led ours. He actually comes and does these. And it was funny because I had somebody on our team who was in sales who looked at us and said, nothing about my personality says I should be in sales. Why am I in sales? I'm all about the service. I'm not about selling. I'm about making sure that the service experience is good. And then there's other people, somebody who we've had putting widgets and wadgets. They're sitting in their office doing nothing sales oriented. And they were very much in line with who I am. And sales is my greatest strength. And I'm like, I never guessed that, because we kind of put people into a job because they applied for it, they sounded good, but we never matched their strengths up. So there are people that can match up really strongly with service. The third part about the hiring process is interview questions. Understanding what the key job function characteristics are and making sure you ask intentional questions. So I won't go through all of these, but I have some questions. What I learned in my time, and we used to do this when I worked at the conference center, is that I learned because I felt duped, to be honest. I didn't do it intentionally, but I felt duped. I'm like, that person totally pulled the wool over my eyes. They gave the perfect response in their interview, and I gave them a job that they were not suited for because I listened to what they said, but I didn't really pay attention. And I maybe didn't ask the right questions. So now I changed things when I was in my role there, hiring the people. And so now I make sure I ask questions that nobody could give a canned response for. So I want to ask, how do you respond when you don't know the answer to a customer's question? Give a specific example of a noteworthy negative customer interaction you've helped resolve to their satisfaction. What was the issue? What was your role in the resolution, and how did you resolve it? And one of my very favorite questions to ask, it's not on here, so if you like this question, you'll want to write it down, is, we hire you for this job, and we think you're doing a great job. But 1 year from now, on your first year anniversary, you go home from work, you pop open a beer or a soda or an iced tea, glass of wine, and you kick back, kick up your feet and say, this was the best job. Taking this job was the best move I could have made. What needs to happen over the next 12 months for that, for you to say that? What needs to happen for you during the next 12 months for you to sit back on your first anniversary and say, this was the best decision I ever made coming to work here? And listening to their perspectives and seeing if there's a team perspective, a client perspective, or an only inwardly looking perspective. I was able to get my car I wanted, and I love the vacation time. I get lots of time off. People were really flexible when I had, or are they saying, I get so much energy when a group checks in, and the energy of having them around really excites me, and I love that. So what are the reasons they're giving for wanting to be there? Allie, do we have some questions?
Yeah, before I ask this question, I just want to remind everybody that yes, this session is being recorded. It'll be up on our uniquevenues.com/resources page within 24 hours by tomorrow. And it can be viewed on our YouTube page. And also we can email the slides out to all of the attendees in the next couple of days for you. But Chuck, we do have a question here. It says, what are some examples of interview questions that have been most helpful to you?
They're actually on this page here. These are some of the best. So here's what I like to do. I'd like to pick 3 adjectives that describe characteristics that a person in that job requires. So to me, in a service role, tenacity would be one of them. Or in sales, tenacity is one of them, right? So I want to develop a question that tests a person's tenacity. So I'm going to ask them an open-ended question to see if they're tenacious, to see if they have the grit and what it takes to know they're going to get rejected. People aren't going to move in the timing and the speed to purchase something that they expect. I'm the worst customer on earth. Are they going to be able to deal with me? Are they going to be able to deal with that person that says, I have one more question, but they say that 10 times in the conversation? One more question. Wait. I have one more question. Okay, you ready to move? No, I'm not ready to move forward yet. I'm sorry. I'm just really taking my time. I'm that person. So I think kind of figuring out what are the characteristics that each one of these jobs requires, and then developing an open-ended question that requires someone to dialogue with you. No yes or no questions, no short canned answers, where they have to actually share their experience with you and demonstrate that characteristic, right? So flexibility, tenacity, creativity. So maybe they're somebody you're hiring to be an event planner. Well, an event planner, I believe that the role of a good salesperson and or event planner, one of their goals is to understand what makes a meeting or an event a success. So asking the bride and or groom, for you to just feel like your wedding was the perfect experience here, what does that mean to you? Or asking that meeting planner, what are your goals and objectives for having a successful meeting, so that you can figure out how you can get somebody there. And then for that event planner to develop creative ideas and solutions that help them reach those goals. So can you tell me about an experience where someone has explained to you, or you've asked about their goals and objectives, or what's going to make this a successful event for them? How did you bring that to life for them? If they can't answer that question, then you probably don't want them. Because what that means is that that event planner sits back and says, tell me what you want. What else do you want? What else do you want? What else do you want? But they're not saying, oh, I have this great idea. I saw this on Pinterest. We could do this here. Let me show it to you. I get that that's the menu that somebody told you about, but based upon what you told me, I'd like to just suggest a few things to think about. I know you like that space that you saw, but I want to take you here and I want to let's try to imagine what this might do for you. See, that's the difference, right? So, so there you have that. Once you've hired somebody, training is extraordinarily important. If I were standing in front of you, I'd ask you all to stand up if you had a customer service training program minimally once a year for your team. I mean, a purposeful customer service training. And then if you have one, stay standing. If not, sit down. So half the room now sits down. Now I'm going to say, how many of you immediately train your new staff consistently with what you trained everybody who was already hired on in that one training? And everybody kind of looks. Because here's the problem. If you hire someone new, but you don't wait to train them on the expectations and responsibilities when it comes to service that everybody else has gone through 2 months earlier, that person will be inconsistent in their service delivery, which dilutes the impact that the other 99% of people who were trained and have expectations live by. So, or how many of you train your service providers, people you don't directly work with? So maybe it's a catering company or whatever. They should be invited. Maybe you can't force them, but invite them to do a customer service training. Don't frame it like you need to adhere to our customer service training. Say to them, oh my gosh, we had this great customer service training. I'd love to, not that I think you need it, but I'm really glad to present this to your group. If you're looking for a training and professional development program, I'd love to do it. And you just train them on the same way you train your team. So there's all kinds of ways. Training is important. Comprehensive relationship building. I think the best way to do it is record your training and make that you did that for everybody. And then when somebody's hired, they have to sit down with someone. And I'm really big on having service trainers who are staff members who are exemplary trainers and service providers, and have them be the designated customer service training person. Make the staff, a new staff, a priority, have them mentor them, all of those things would be really important. Allie, any questions? And I only keep asking because I didn't turn it off and I keep seeing red things flying up here, so I know something's happening.
We have a few.
Yeah.
So this one is, what are your top skill drills that you would have your team do when conducting a customer service training?
What are our top team drills?
skill drills. Or do you have any kind of, I don't know, maybe games or role playing that you would have your team do?
So for me, this is a skill drill. We used to have every single team member have to know how we would have contests in teams to take care of all of the technology. So you had to change a light bulb in a projector. You had to set up a screen. You had to do this with lighting. You had to do this because we tried to make it fun for people to know when somebody stops you in the hall and say, our projector's not working. I can't get the projector to work. Instead of delaying it another 5 to 10 minutes, because sometimes you only have 10 minutes between a session, that person, even though they might work at the front desk, say, let me see if I can help you. And they come in. You know, they proactively get on and say, hey, I'm going to try get started helping. Can somebody come in and help? But they've learned how to do some of the basic fixes when somebody says, I can't get the projector to work, right? It happens to me all the time. So we kind of did some games, but everybody had to know how to do everything, right? So I think you can gamify it, but you don't want to make it too gamey because that could also undermine the importance of, you really need to know, Chuck, because I was the worst, Chuck, you have to figure this out. I know you're the director. You're always walking these halls. You have to know how to do this, right? So, and then we also had a very, very thorough manual that people were able to refer to. Every staff member had it. So whether they were on the tech team and it was kept in the technology room or the front desk and there was a copy there, or people's office desks or whatever, it was really, really important. I also think that role playing is very good. We actually used to do a fashion show. This was so funny. So our staff would come, we worked with a lot of students, and I worked at a time where big frumpy clothes were in. Like, do you remember that terrible time in our history where like somebody who was a size small wore something that was a size large and it hung off of them, and jeans were real long and baggy, and just a terrible time in our fashion history. But anyway, and so, you know, you'd have a student, you know, they wear a size small shirt, and they'd be like, they're filling out their forms and they ask for a size large shirt, and you're like, no, 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 no. So we used to do fashion shows on how to dress and how not to dress. And the message is that when you're a service person, the attention is not supposed to be on you. You are supposed to have the most most benign look you could possibly have. I don't know what it was like when Allison worked there, but when I worked at the conference center at Pitt Johnstown, our student staff who were student event planners were, you know, a dress shirt, dress pants, and they had a name badge on. We were really big about, we don't want you to have piercings all over your face. I know that that's an expression, but it distracts from the customer experience because they're looking, if they're anything like me, they're looking, thinking, how did they get that in there? And how do they get that out of there? And you're trying to ask questions. So we used to do fashion shows and stuff like that. Any other questions, Al, before we move on? I clearly see I'm not going to hit the time, and I apologize. So I hope nobody's mad about this. We might have to do a part 2.
Okay. I do have one question that specifically pertains to what you were talking about as far as a manual.
Okay.
They're asking, you know, what do you include in the manual specifically? They've struggled with that because their venue and events are so different. It's hard to come up with blanket statements that's helpful for everyone.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So I never believed in having a policy or a policy manual, especially the service part of it, that was so specific that we scripted out for people how to act. Instead, we had expectations about, we had things like, okay, this sounds so corny. I just even hate to even say this, but we had things like, here's the corniest one we had. but try it sometime. Smile when you answer the phone. I know that sounds so weird. Answer the phone with a smile. Hi, this is Chuck with you. I mean, it's really hard to be a jerk when you're smiling, right? It's hard to bring some of the things that have you frustrated when you're smiling. Another one was greet all customers at the front desk. Stand when you greet every single person who walks through the front door. Stand. Yep, we'll put chairs here. But the second you see somebody approaching that door, stand up, lean in, and you greet them and say, welcome to the conference center at Pitt Johnstown. How can I help you today? Say it, do it. I actually, one of my favorite, so I was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and it wasn't like the most exciting place to live for somebody who was a college-age student. It was, you know, it was a former mill town and all of those things. It's actually a lot more fun if people knew the place, but if you didn't, it was, you know, and you should always hire people who have good things to say about your product. So when you're interviewing them and building into your policies and procedures, then you can put expectations, is to ask them, you know, have you ever eaten here? Have you ever been to an event here? What did you like about it? It was okay. You know, it was slow. Or, you know, oh, this town sucks. I can't wait to get out of it. I don't want to hire them. I don't want to hire them because I want people who will always be a good steward of who we are and what we do, who believe in our mission, who love what we do. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think when you tell people, answer the phone on 3 rings, they're more concentrating on how many rings was it. You know, I got to answer it on 3 rings. Then answer the phone in a reasonable time and be prepared to respond. Be focused on the client, right? So it was really interesting to me. This is exactly why we are going to have to do a part 2 of this. And I promise for those of you who came to part 1 and can't be on part 2, it will be recorded, and let's make sure we get it out to everybody because there's a lot more to go through. But when we do the consulting, we secret shop, right? I can tell you that to be a good service provider, you have to be very balanced between having staff who can achieve your internal goals and practices, and service staff, people in service positions who know when to put those things down and focus on the customer's needs. And when I secret shop this place, I was really able to see what service points, because we secret shopped 40 I want to say 40, or maybe it was 20, I can't remember, service points. And I can tell which ones were trained to always focus on getting the widgets and the wadgets and being task oriented. And I also knew the ones who were just like really friendly, but didn't have, like, I love when somebody goes, oh my gosh, hi, how are you? Yeah, and I love it, but no, I cannot answer a thing. I have no idea, but I'll find out for you. So they're like really into being nice, but they don't have the information. You want to find that balance. So your policies and procedures manual, you have to make sure all of your policies and procedures are balanced. Okay. So I'm going to go on here to the next part, the trapeze partners. These are all of those people you work with day in and day out who you don't supervise, but are part of your success. So for me, it was our caterers. Our caterers were a contract company. Now I had the benefit or the ease because my department was the overseer of the food service contract, the catering contract. Facilities management, the people that did room setups, union shop, not under my responsibility. But it was my job to develop a trapeze partner type relationship. And here's what that means. That means that, you know, when people do trapeze performance, both sides climb up their ladder, they walk to the end of the plank, and they jump off, and they, in tandem, grab arms and do a really beautiful performance, and then they get back on at the same time and they climb back down. Now, once in a while, they fall into the net because there was a miscue, and that will happen. But can they crawl back up together and get it together again and do that beautiful performance and execute? Absolutely. So, how do you get your trapeze partners? How do you get your service providers to be trapeze partners? Well, if you're going to sit back, which I see way too often, and wait for them, and you just say, they don't do this and they don't do that. And I sit there and say, well, what are you doing to make it happen? A lot of times we tell people what we expect from them, but we never say, what do you expect from us? So I think memorandums of understanding are really good to say, for us to be a success, we're in this together. We're in this together. I mean, let's be honest. You know, the more successful we are, the more successful you are. The more successful you are, the more successful we are. Even if we only just look at our own departmental circumstances, it doesn't do much for you as the catering department or the facilities management department for an event to fail. And the reason for it to fail was because of a lack of service on your part. So let's just talk about how we serve people. What do you expect from me? What do we do really well for you that helps you, facilities management, to get your job, your setups done? What do we do poorly? What could we do better? And then let me tell you those same things. Now let's come up with a solution and let's develop it into a set of expectations. The other thing is a cross-training program. Too many people say, this is how we do things here at our venue. You need to do things our way. I want to go down and say, hey, show me how your work orders come in, because I know you're not only doing things for us, but how do your work orders come in and how do you process those? Oh, I see that. So now I see how there could be a backlog, so we could do this better. And the goal of this whole trapeze partner philosophy is for both sides of the partnership to aim for perfection each and every time, and to do this really flawlessly executed performance. Each and every event is a performance. So that's my philosophy on service providers. I encourage and challenge each of you not to look at them as that pain that they may be to you, but to look at them as your trapeze partner. When I left the university, my new office at Unique Venues was 8 miles across town. And our facilities team, when they would go to the president's home, which was in the section of the town, I know usually president's homes are right next to campus, but for some reason, ours was in this nice kind of older Victorian kind of neighborhood. And that's where my office was. And they'd stop by and see me all the time. And the one comment they made to me, which was one of the most, I think of it still to this day, is, Chuck Salem, you were the hardest person, the toughest person we ever worked for. You were the best person we ever worked for. We knew what you expected. We knew we could talk to you when we needed to. You held us to our expectations. You didn't let us off the hook, and you helped. We all became better. And I was able to say, that happened to me too. Like, I learned new perspectives. So, I think sometimes we just settle for people just doing their jobs poorly and feel like it's out of our control. But through good communication, it's a lot better in our control. Oh, I think I lost everybody. Hold on, let me share my screen again. So anyway, I feel like it is 3:02 right now, and I need to say we're going to do a part 2 to this. And if you were unable to sign up for part 2, I promise you that it will be recorded. Hopefully it's something you want me to continue with. So I apologize for being, this is my downside. I'm a storyteller, and so go ahead, Corey.
Cool. Well, yeah, no, this was great information, and the session evaluation is glowing, so it was an important session. We are going to wrap it up today, and I have the wrong slide pulled up. I apologize. But as we usually do to end these sessions, just wanted to let you know that we've got a lot of other great content lined up over the next month. We will be sure to squeeze in a customer service training and support part 2 in this list. Our next session is going to be on tomorrow, Wednesday. It's marketing group therapy for all of our venues. And then Thursday is going to round out the series on our virtual and hybrid meeting session. Later on this month, we have another industry expert panel, which always gets a lot of attendance and interest. So make sure you sign up for that if you haven't already. And by then, I'm sure we'll have our part 2 scheduled for this, and we will let you all know when you can sign up for that. Thanks everyone so much for your participation today and for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you on another session in the near future. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.